Carnage beholds a new look, new swagger, same ugly face.
Your new gimmick.
Absolutely.
You need to be renamed with a new haircut. You know this.
I think I've got a name. I can do it. 1 second. Before we even introduce ourselves, I suppose I can come up with something and we'll go like this. Since I've got a nice little trusty keyboard, we have it ready. 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Oh my word. Okay. Right, that's where we're going with this, is it?
Absolutely. Welcome back to the Weekly Armchair. Of course, this is the Weekly Steelchair podcast, Shotgun Saturday.
Yeah, Shotgun Saturday, usually starting at 3. Today it's on you, though. Today I don't have to take the heat for it. You're getting all the backstage heat.
Yeah. As you can see, I had to rebrand, new look, even bladed the sides, but it's all good. It's all worth it because amongst the heat outside, the heat's here. It's myself, host Reece, my co-host Eilidh, and we've got a big show to start off. But before we do that, I may as well ask the appropriate question. How are you, co-host? How are you?
I'm doing all right. I mean, it has been too bloody hot. It really has been. No, I mean, I was at a gig last night, so you know all that added body heat to the actual heat in the air. You know, it was almost unbearable, but it was a really good night. And then other than that, you know, I'm just sort of preparing to go back to work after the summer off, and just sort of making sure everything's in line from that. And as far as the wrestling goes, really enjoying what's going on with the majority of things at the moment. How are you?
More or less the same. Yeah, I'm good. Can't stand the flaming heat though. The heat is absolutely appalling, but if anything, at least I'm packing. I'm invested in. I've got my stock in Pepsi Max. They sponsor me anyway, pretty much. The amount of stuff I drink, they may as well. But all in all, I'm very good. I'm looking forward to an hour of divulging into this. Unless you've got, I'm no surprise it's yourself. I wouldn't be surprised if you got quiz questions. But of course, today, 1 big hour of real interest, real talk, and we may as well get into it. Behind the scenes, we're going to dip away from WWE for about 15 minutes because we've got a big conversation, and that's obviously behind the scenes. Tony Khan, AEW, he is completely corrupting his organization. He is going to make it worse than we would expect. There's a lot riding on it, and obviously we are wrestling fans. We do like AEW as well, but right now I can't stand Tony Khan. The man needs out of the organization. He needs out. He's actually ruining it. It's going to get a lot worse than it is better because the man does not know what he's doing.
I don't know if he is making it worse or if it's just the influence he gives himself that's making it worse. Obviously, I mean, Nick Khan owns WWE still.
Mm-hmm.
But Nick Khan doesn't book matches. Nick Khan doesn't write the show for the WWE because he leaves that to people who know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Tony Khan's main issue and what's sort of coming out now as the bloom comes off the Adam Rose that is AEW, it is that everything was all so rosy because everyone was able to point and go, but at least he's not Vince. Now Vince is gone, people are like, oh, he is the worst owner. Like, he is the worst guy to work for in wrestling because people can't go, well, at least it's not Vince's. And I think Tony Khan's also realising that in terms of his fan base. And his fan base is going, well, now I don't need to worry about Vince. And now Triple H is booking and he's doing some interesting things over on that side of the border. So
Agreed.
I think there's some panic in All Elite Wrestling.
How much of a panic do you think it is, though, realistically? Because it's the same things week after week. There's reports that they want to go to two-night shows. They want to go to longer periods of time. I've got the fear that they're going to end up like the late 90s WCW into the 2000. The way it's going right now, it's going to get a lot worse unless they can turn it around. It's really horrible. And to be fair, commenting from Gerard, good to see you, mate. He stopped watching AEW 2-3 weeks ago. Product was awful. At least with WWE now, there are stars that keep you coming back. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. It's the same every week. It's the same every week with WWE. It's the same thing. AEW. It's the same thing every week.
The issue with AEW, and be it for shoot reasons or work reasons or work shoot reasons, brother, it is that people who get themselves over, and Tony Khan can't do anything with them, or seems to fail to get the booking done, seems to fail to actually help the talent get over. If you look at all the talents in AEW that are worth a watch, or the ones who are most worth a watch, and I'm not talking about Jon Moxley, and I'm not talking about Chris Jericho, I'm talking about Bryan Danielson, I'm talking about CM Punk, I'm talking about MJF, I'm talking about Wardlow, and I'm talking about FTR. FTR are kept off television actively by the Bucks. You would have to think that's the case, because I don't know of their injury. We obviously saw them and Wardlow this week on AEW. Yeah. Though the trio they've been hinting at was FTR and Punk. So, I'd much rather see that trio that we've already seen than all of a sudden FTR and pals Wardlow.
Do you like the dynamic of that trio? Because I quite like it.
I like the FTR and Punk trio, yeah. I like, because they're all just they know the business. They're all really sort of good. I would say Punk isn't quite as, this is going to get some heat, isn't it? Punk isn't as sound a fundamental wrestler as either Dax or Cash.
You're right.
Who are two of the best in-ring workers in the world. And they're both right up there. And every time you think that Dax is one of the best, Cash shows you that he's one of the best. Every time Cash is standing out, Dax will do something to stand out. So they're almost inseparable in that term. And of course, Dax fought Cash on AEW, and that was brilliant. That's one of their best matches of the year.
Yeah,
because it was a serious wrestling match that told a serious story, and there wasn't some stupid angle afterwards where they suddenly hated each other. Because FTR know what they're doing. Punk knows what he's doing, and I like to think Danielson knows what he's doing, but also that Danielson's a bit more of the PWG kind of open to doing it. So he's open to being in the Blackpool Combat Club and having joke matches with Chris Jericho and Jake Hager, and just really pissing his potential against the wall. And I know it's weird to say potential when it's Bryan Danielson, but he is pissing his potential in AEW against the wall, because he should have been world champion. He should have beaten Hangman Page. We should have been building to Danielson and Punk for a year.
Yeah. Here's an interesting comment. This is from Gerard. I mean, I see where he's coming from, but I kind of disagree. He says he pushes the wrong people. Like, he can't stand Orange Cassidy's embarrassment of professional wrestling. I don't know.
Gerard, you're speaking my language.
See, he pushes the wrong people, but I don't think Orange Cassidy is. I think Orange Cassidy, maybe he's a little bit over the top of constantly kicking people's shins, but in terms of what professional wrestling is all about, it's about good quality, it's about good match quality, it's about bringing the fans in with drama, it's about having that presence. Orange Cassidy actually has that. He's actually really good. I don't think he's the problem. The problem is who he's being made to work with.
No. Yeah and no. I get what you're saying, and Orange Cassidy can do the work in the ring.
Say that. He could be a wee bit better, but in terms of his actual presence and his match quality, he is actually quite good. And I think
the character that's fine. But what I hated Orange Cassidy immediately. As soon as I saw him. Yeah. It was nuclear, go away heat. I don't like this at all.
It was crazy.
The first time I watched a proper match with him was a stupid, was it a 4-on-4, right?
Yeah.
And it was in early days of AEW, and they did a 4-on-4 back suplex spot. But I think what swung it was that Orange Cassidy got in the ring and hit his part of the back suplex with his hands in his pockets. There's two camps reacting to that spot. Some people were like, "Oh, that's really cool how he did it with his hands in his pockets." And I was there with other people on the other camp, like, that is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. Why
Like,
would
I'll
you be
admit,
acting
like
that way?
Like, I'll admit, even as a fan of Orange Cassidy's work, I don't like that. Like, I will completely agree with yourself. I completely agree, like, with any fan who will project that. Like, the whole, I don't like it when, like, if he's in a promo, like, if he's in a promo and has his hands in his pockets, that's who he is. That actually does work, because that's actually stealing attention away. Because it doesn't have to be overly hand gesture. He can keep his hands in his pockets and just chill. His voice and the shades, that's enough. That actually does give you a heel, like, push to it. But when he is hands in pockets, like doing moves, or even his debut when he had his hands in his pockets, and he just rolled into the ring, like. There's parts of it where it does work, and there's parts where realistically it shouldn't. And that, for me, shouldn't. Like, he shouldn't be doing that.
I think for his presentation, everything up until the bell rings, sure. Because
In the ring, hands down. I think me and Eilidh might actually mutually agree on
best
this.
tag team in the industry, and they aren't even the yeah. But that's because the Bucks don't want to put out that. So the Bucks gave the belts to Swerve and Lee because the Bucks ultimately didn't want to put FTR over.
They don't want to drop the titles to them, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, there's two main reasons why they didn't want to drop the titles. One is because FTR are an old school tag team, whereas the Young Bucks are the modern, like, the technical, high flying. FTR are still technical, but it's more like the old 80s, like, aggressive brute style. Like, I've said it on this podcast before. The reason I like them is because they remind me of Ole and Arn Anderson from the peak of the Four Horsemen. And I've said that so many times that they are the best tag team from the 80s. They're the best tag team now, because they're completely the same style. The Bucks are a great tag team. I don't think me or you will disagree on that. Like, they are a great tag team, but it's overly the same thing. Right now, like, for me, the best tag teams, FTR's number one. Then it's the Briscoes. I said it last week. The Briscoes are the second best for me, and then the third is another personal favorite of mine, and that's Lucha Brothers.
Well,
Like,
I mean, the less said about what they did this week, the better. I just really
the Lucha Brothers, yeah.
I just really didn't enjoy the match. But yeah, back on the point, we're talking about sort of, okay, so Orange Cassidy, Tony Khan books him and overbooks him and has used him in ways that he thinks is pushing Orange Cassidy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tony Khan thinks that because the fans are into Orange Cassidy, that putting him in for feuds with the people that the fans want to see as well, will help the other person get over off Orange Cassidy's popularity.
I agree.
It doesn't, and it never has.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Cole came into the company as an afterthought.
And he's been shit.
And his first feud was with Orange Cassidy. And if I need to remind you, Orange Cassidy beat him.
He did.
So that killed Adam Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Orange Cassidy just had a babyface versus babyface title match against Wardlow, and it killed Wardlow because Wardlow couldn't put him away in 10 minutes. That match was like 15 minutes, and why? That should have been Wardlow crushing Orange Cassidy.
I agree. No, I agree, and that is a testament to where Tony Khan is going wrong. Booking wise, like, Wardlow shouldn't have just went over. Wardlow should have crushed him in about 5-6 minutes. It should have been a squash.
Or
realistically,
the match shouldn't have happened, and you could have put Wardlow against a pathetic heel, and he could have won in a minute.
Or what you could have done, even though it was a great match between Darby Allin and Bruiser Brody, you should have had
Brody King,
Wardlow versus Brody King. Sorry, yeah, you should have had King versus Wardlow. you should have had two massive powerhouses going up against each other, because that would have determined where one's champion and the other's going as a top contender for the world title.
But that's kind of how they were building Wardlow anyway.
Yeah.
When you look that you had the matches against W. Morrissey and was it the Butcher or the Blade?
Blade, wasn't it?
He fought one of them. And so Jared Kennedy is asking, and we'll get to the question. Sorry, it's been up for so long. Do both of you worry for what will happen to ROH if we look at the state of AEW now? Well, yeah, but ROH doesn't yet actually have television. And if Tony Khan's planning to write the television, he's going to end up killing himself with stress. But ROH is already, much like the word I just used for Adam Cole, an afterthought.
Mm-hmm. There's only one thing in my opinion that can actually save Ring of Honor, and it's not Tony Khan. They need the best booked promotion to actually get involved. They need Impact. Right now, for the past 6 to 7 months, Impact has actually been consistently the best booked promotion because of who they've got. WWE's been great. I'm not taking away from WWE. WWE's been great. But Impact has been consistently great. Shows, live events, and pay-per-view. And this is where it's telling. It's like WWE actually looks more to Impact than it does to AEW. It looks more to that because it doesn't even mention AEW anyway. But a lot more of WWE stars actually watch Impact, and it's because of the blend. The blend is so perfect. You've got classics from the early years versus the modern day approach. Like you've got like Josh Alexander versus Alex Shelley last night, and that was a phenomenal world title match. That's what you need. You need a perfect blend, and it's the same. It's not just Ring of Honor that's in trouble. New Japan's in trouble because they're not doing things right either. Like Okada being constantly on away in America is a problem. I've got no issue with that as well. I love Okada. I think Okada's amazing, but he should be no disrespect him, but he should not be overseas as much. He should still be in that promotion trying to raise it up. They are slipping massively, and I hate to say that because I love New Japan, just because I love NWA. NWA's not getting enough credit where it deserves right now.
New Japan, it is kind of sad, but New Japan have sort of been victims of AEW the same way that AEW have, in a way, been victims of New Japan. Because AEW haven't bothered to try, and again, I think this is Tony Khan and his markish behaviour coming through. And so, I could get the Japanese guys, I could get the guys from New Japan, and they could fit, and we could have John Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. And no one particularly cared. I mean, people cared when the match was coming up, but they stood and chopped each other for 6 minutes. It was not exciting viewing at all.
Yeah.
And too much of AEW's booking via Tony Khan is what internet fans think about. So I remember seeing, it was the night that Christian Cage showed up in AEW. And, there was all that talk of it was going to be an earth-shattering surprise and, it's going to change the wrestling business. It ended up being Christian. Months before CM Punk, I believe. So what they did was sort of, they say, Christian's coming. Triple H is going to make Cam play the game. Yeah, I mean, he is stressed.
Yeah.
But what they did, so, it was big earth-shattering surprise and this and that. And when Christian came out, people started thinking about the dream matches they could have with Christian. Now, firstly, I don't really have any of them, and I didn't have any of them. For Christian, I was like, it's a nice payday for him. He's an all-right wrestler. Yeah. It's not setting the
better than management role right now.
If you looked at Twitter that night, it was like the fans were giving Tony Khan ideas. They were like, I want to see Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega. Book it, Tony. Tony actually does. But Tony doesn't do it because the fans have been crying for something for so long. Tony Khan seemingly just reads the tweet that one fan sent him and goes, it's a good idea, and just notes it down.
You're it's so wrong. He booked it wrong as well. Like he booked on the worst place. He booked it on just a normal show. He just booked it on Dynamite.
And by the way, Tony Khan's not the only one who thinks that all the wrestling companies can hold hands, because Kenny Omega said the same in an interview.
Correct.
And he said that apparently Triple H is open to it, and we just have to eliminate Vince from the situation. Triple H doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would work with Kenny Omega. He strikes me as the kind of guy who would rip Kenny Omega's eyeballs out. But at the same time, maybe it does happen. And if it does happen, you've then got Triple H's booking with AEW's roster. Yeah, I still don't think that's better than Triple H having WWE's roster at the minute. Not with how it's been built. WWE at the moment are building people up. AEW's tearing them down.
I would go as far as to say that he would rather work with Pac again or Matt Sydal than work with Kenny Omega. And I love Kenny Omega. You know I love Kenny Omega. But I genuinely think he would rather work with the likes of Matt Sydal or Pac again than work with Omega, because Omega doesn't suit what he's trying to build. Even though he does fit that build of like somebody who's like 210 to 230. It's all about the technical build. It's like it does fit, but Kenny Omega is just too much. Like he's got too.
I don't think he was talking about working with him in terms of a match. I think they were talking as EVP to COO. Or
even that, it's still even that. It's just
to me that still doesn't work. To me, it's still a bit like, okay, well, what are you actually hoping for out of this?
Yeah, but here's a question before we move on. This is something I really want to ask you, because we are going to move on to Triple H, and obviously WWE's consistent improving ratings, WWE's consistent match quality, promos, and obviously certain returns that's been built up. I've got a question for you about Tony Khan, and this is one that I think really needs to be asked: is how long do you think Tony Khan has now before he realizes, actually, I'd be very surprised if he admits this, but how long do you think Tony Khan's got before he admits he was in the wrong over certain decisions and he actually tries to get somebody else to try and run things for him? How long would you think? Because it's bound to happen.
The thing is, if he was right in the head, he would have someone. He would have had someone there from the start. He's never done it before, and you're offering a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the likes of Jim Ross wants to work for you, and the useless Tony Schiavone wants to work for you as well. But you don't book it. You don't hire a booker. You don't hire a producer, or like someone who would at least know this. You don't hire, a head writer. You're the head writer. Like Tony Khan's going to be writing his own TV. And we know that he only writes parts of his own TV, because we're then back to WCW. You get creative control. I'm not saying only WCW and now AEW do the creative control thing. Yeah. WWE gives creative control based on tenure. I would be surprised if they brought in new people immediately and they had creative control.
It's also very marginalized as well.
Have creative control when they first showed up in NXT. I would doubt it. I think they went with Triple H's booking. Mm-hmm. But Edge now, Randy Orton now, probably Rey Mysterio. I mean, I'm not sure. He doesn't strike me as someone who would go for it, but certainly Edge, because he was able to pull himself out of Judgment Day. Certainly Randy Orton, because he's been able to just say, I'm not working with that guy. Brock, we know, has had it. Because, well, come on. Seth Rollins now, because he gets to go, I'm not on this show, and he gets to sort of shoot his way into things. And, he was Cody's opponent. So you know that Seth Rollins has that creative control. But they don't turn around and go, Baron Corbin, you've got creative control. Or they don't just sign a new independent name. When Nakamura came in, it's like, Nakamura, you've got creative control. Because that's not how it works. But AEW seems to do it with everyone, and everyone wants to do their own thing. Not to mention the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega have too much power, and they're able to just complete their own self-masturbation with this trios title and the scene that they're building there. So in terms of how long Tony Khan's going to last before it all crumbles, and implodes if he doesn't get a
Yeah.
booker. I mean, you've really got to look at, are they going to get a better TV deal? Are TNT going to be happy, and TBS going to be happy with that TV deal? And I don't know. I think he's got to get a booker in before WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Because if WWE's first WrestleMania under Triple H is as strong as it could be and as well booked as it could be, huge trouble for AEW. Because people will then be realizing this is a new WWE. This isn't a WWE run by Vince McMahon, and this is Triple H giving us wrestling. Once Triple H is giving us wrestling, Tony Khan's in deep trouble. The Elite are in deep trouble because they're going to need to find someone else who can book that way. And Triple H books like no one else.
It wouldn't surprise me, though, if Tony Khan did turn to somebody who's actually not a bad booker himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he considered Jeff Jarrett.
Would Jeff Jarrett do it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he considered that, though, because it actually would work. He's actually really good. He's actually a really good booker. I mean, even though he booked himself.
But I thought Jeff Jarrett now had a role. I thought Jeff Jarrett had a role backstage in the dub at the moment.
I'm not sure if he does have a role. I know he is. I know he is there. Yeah, but I still think as a booker, I think he'd be a good shout, though. Just as something bizarre.
I mean, there's several people they could get in. I mean, and also they've got senior heads in that company who would at least be able to tell him, look, that's an awful idea. You know, ask Jim Ross. In terms of talent, you've still got to look at the people who've done it correctly. Now, I wouldn't listen to Chris Jericho at the moment, but you're looking at people like Jerry Lynn. He's got them there. Ask him what he would do. You know, you've got senior names. Don't just sign them because you're a mark.
Absolutely.
Reach out to people like Kurt Angle if he'll do it. Reach out to people. Ask Samoa Joe, who at least will know what he's doing. Ask these veterans that you've got both in the ring and not, how should I book this? Because if you get the right people as in-ring talent who don't have that ego about them, you can do it. You can book and wrestle. It used to happen all the time.
It works. It works really well. It works really well, but I suppose it's just down to significance. I think one thing obviously was the loss of Rhodes. Like that was one thing that has
clearly hurt the product. I know fans were sick of Cody, but see if he had broken the stipulation and won the world title.
It would have done a lot. It would have done a lot.
Well, he was already turning heel. The fans hated him already. So if he broke the stipulation and beaten, who would it have been at that point? Was that Hangman?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he'd beaten Hangman as well, because that would complete their arc. I think they fought each other in either New Japan or ROH, and it was over one of the titles. It might have even been an ROH World Title match, but you know, because that whole group, the Elite, are always turning on each other and feuding and things, and we're seeing that again. And the fact that AEW is going back to that shows me that Tony's struggling for booking, but it also shows me that the Young Bucks have too much power.
I agree.
And, I mean, they're the reason it exists, but they've still got too much power and too much of an ego to go alongside it. We've got Hulk Hogan, but rather than being a heavyweight absolute superstar, it's too whiny, pathetic, late 30s, small, weak gymnast. Just gymnasts. Yeah. That's all they are. There's just acrobatics and gymnastics coming from the Young Bucks. And then Kenny Omega, I think it's spoken enough about it.
Absolutely. Moving on, though, because we've given as much time to obviously AEW as we can, we are going to move on towards the more positive side, which is obviously WWE at the minute. So we'll spend about another 15-20 minutes on this, and then I'm guessing that the Quizmaster has a quiz prepared. She always does.
I may have a few questions for you.
Sweet, we'll do that. We are going to do about an hour, so we're going to spend 50 minutes here and then 50 minutes on the quiz, then we'll wrap up. So in terms of WWE now, it's been a massive success since SummerSlam. massive success building up to SummerSlam in terms of, which we spoke about last week, in terms of booking under Triple H and his creative team. This past week, some very exciting returns. Obviously, we mentioned Karrion Kross had a fantastic return. Dexter Lumis on Raw this week. In terms of the product, how impressed are you completely by Triple H? And also going into Clash, which is 3 weeks away, how do you see WWE going now for, say, not just the next month, which has been great, but say up until the end of the year, and then going into 2023, just what has completely inspired and impressed you with this direction?
I like the focus on wrestling, quite frankly. I mean, if you look at Raw this week, and Raw's the one that I can watch in full. I don't actually have BT Sport access, but I watch it at my brother's. So I've seen Raw for the week, and the thing that impressed me was that matches got time to be matches, which isn't something that would happen under Vince recently. You know, Raw, you'd have a match, it'd be 4 minutes, and either it'd be like roll up, or it would be broken up with a DQ, or heel cheats immediately, or there's a run in, things like that. And I like that matches get to breathe, but they also don't overstay their welcome. So if you look at Raw this week, you have Chad Gable versus Dolph Ziggler.
Yes.
Now, under Vince McMahon, that match gets 2 minutes.
Sadly.
But what we got was, I don't know, probably 8 minutes, 9 minutes maybe, just like technical submission, offense and countering, and then the idea that Dolph Ziggler hits super kick 1, 2, 3. Because Dolph Ziggler is one of those people that has got the super kick over as his sort of finisher. He's not just taking it.
I'm so glad that he is the opposite to me butchering the super kick last week, because obviously I butchered that for about 10 minutes last week.
Yeah, you did go off. But I mean, you also look at the Lashley and Ciampa match. Under Vince McMahon, if Ciampa lost the title match to Bobby Lashley, we would think Ciampa's been buried. Under Triple H, we don't. Under Triple H, we think Ciampa looked strong in that match, but ultimately Bobby Lashley's better. And that's where they are at the moment. At the moment, with WWE's hierarchy, Bobby Lashley is considerably higher up than Ciampa.
Absolutely.
But that match didn't tell you that right away. Because Ciampa hung in there. And yeah, there was a bit of cheating. Of course there was.
Which is good.
And yeah, there's the run-in from Styles, which has obviously led and built to the match on Raw this week. Well, next week, I suppose, with AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley for the US title.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what's going to happen. Does Tommaso Ciampa want to get involved? Are we heading in the direction of a triple threat? Maybe especially even a fatal four-way. If the Miz wants to be involved as well, and that way you can do the split between Ciampa and the Miz. But you've had enough time where Ciampa's got a good rub off the Miz and a good rub off AJ Styles by beating him, and a good rub off Bobby Lashley by hanging in there with him. But the number one thing that's impressed me is matches have been matches. Everyone has looked more impressive.
I have one question for you, because personally, it's not the match I want for Clash, but obviously it has been booked. What's your thoughts on the women's 6-man tag?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think if we are heading in this sort of direction, whoever Bobby Lashley has his match with, we know that's not going to be a tag match. I meant
the women's tag one.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, for the other feuds, whoever Bobby Lashley feuds with, we know that's not going to be a tag match.
Thankfully,
we don't think that they're going to do another 6-man tag on the show with Edge and the Mysterios against Judgment Day. We don't think that's going to be a thing.
Yes.
So I think if you've got 1 6-women tag in this instance, that's great. The problem is, under Vince, that would have just been thrown on the card last minute. For Triple H, Bailey and Io Sky and Dakota Kai opened the show.
Mm-hmm.
They were a big talking point at SummerSlam. Then they open the show. Bailey gets the promo. They appear multiple times throughout that episode. Triple H is behind this. He is behind the group that's reported to be called Control. But they don't have an official nameplate that I saw. So I'm not sure if they're actually called Control. But it was heavily implied on commentary, and it's the name that's sort of floating around. But Triple H has built that. It's different to Vince McMahon just turning around and going, we're going to have a 6-women tag because I need to pay these 6 women a pay-per-view payday.
Yeah.
They've actually built it, and I think it's going to be a good match. You've got 6 brilliant workers there.
I'll be honest,
6 of the best in the world for that. And I think it's going to be a great match. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to be there live. I think it's going in the way of a babyface win, but so long as, there's been enough heat in the build-up, so long as Control can get enough heat back, the babyface win would be the right outcome. I think they would open the card with it as well, potentially.
What I hope, and this one thing is, I wanted a single, I wanted a women's single and a women's tag. I wanted Dakota Kai and Io Sky as a team, but I wanted Bailey versus Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. That's what I wanted.
But you're going to get the match that you want anyway.
Exactly, and the reason I'm thinking is because I agree with you. I think babyface win, but I think post-match Control attack the faces, but Bailey rips Belair apart.
I thought you were going to say rips her hair out. It's like, you can't do that.
I'd rather not, but rips her apart, and I'd be okay with that, because I think that would work. Maybe take a steel, like what she did when she was a SmackDown Women's Champion. She takes a steel chair to Belair.
Maybe, perhaps, maybe sort of similar to what they did to Becky. Well, I mean, we know Becky was already hurt, but they aggravated it that way. I mean, perhaps, but you're going to see your tag match anyway, you'd imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Because
who would
obviously
you say the wild
Raw,
card?
You say? Who's the wild card?
Have in both teams? I think Dakota Kai's the wild card for the heels. I like all three, but I think she's the wild card.
They've sort of, I mean, obviously Dakota Kai's the one we've seen the least of.
Exactly.
Not only in terms of probably overall exposure. Obviously, Io Shirai was, as she was then known, was the NXT Women's Champion and had all this exposure and everything like that. I think even had a Rumble appearance.
Yes, she did, yeah.
So she had all that. Dakota Kai has appeared in the Rumble, but she also wasn't used nearly as well on NXT. Became a women's tag team champion on NXT, then sort of lost them and just sort of got lost in the shuffle, and then was obviously cut. So I think Dakota Kai would be the wild card, and then I wonder what they're going to do with Bliss on the other side, because I want them to push Bliss, but I want this story to end before they do, because Bliss is a much better heel.
I know. I really want her to turn heel. I really want her as champion again. It's
almost like I would flip Bailey and Bliss around.
Double turn.
I don't see how you could possibly do that, because if Bliss is somehow controlling all of this, Bailey's the single stupidest wrestler in the world. If she can't see that her own group's going to turn on her, we're back to the whole, the thing they did with the Pinnacle in AEW.
Or they do the Judgment Day-esque style where Balor gets recruited into it.
Yeah, or Edge looking really, really stupid. That's more recent and very similar example. People have a group and then they just get kicked out of their own group because I don't know.
They don't like the direction, which could happen. It's not a bad thing to do. They could do. I think the way the women are being booked right now, I think the women could actually have a better booking of kicking Bailey out than what Balor did to Edge. I think you would actually get a lot more, especially because Dakota Kai. We've already seen it when she turned at War Games 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. When she turned heel at War Games, in the match against Shayna Baszler's team, that heel turn was perfect. I think you could have a similar-esque way where they just brutalize Bayley, and then Bliss just walks out and just stands in front of them with a smile or something, like, and a sinister smile that Bayley, the Bliss is.
I wouldn't. I don't think I would hate it. It's one of those things I definitely have to see how they did it first before I would decide if I hate it, because I like Bayley and I like this group, but I know that Bliss is such a good heel, and I know Bayley's a good face. I mean, okay, Vince didn't like it, but Triple H booked babyface Bayley,
and he knows why, because he's not out of touch like Vince.
Yeah,
and I think it was a right decision. Even though I do like Becky as a heel, I do like her as a babyface. She can do both really well.
Yeah, we've already said sort of the some of them are very sort of adaptable in that sense. They're really sort of well-rounded in terms of they could be a heel, they could be a face, and they can sort of blend it as well. And I like that. And it's not that it's impossible to get behind Bliss, but it's just that I remember, the Goddess being so good that having that back, especially after the She-Fiend stuff, we're just
cringe.
Like less of that. In terms of what's coming up I'll ask you this. In terms of what's coming up for Clash at the Castle, based on what's been built this week, so not only what we know, but what you can see coming. Obviously, we'll talk about the full card when we know the full card. But in terms of the positionings, who else is it that you can see having sort of a big match at Clash? Obviously, we know our world title match, we know our SmackDown Women's Championship match, we know about the 6-women tag. What other things would you expect to see at this point?
There's two things I really want to see. For the first time in nearly, let's see, this is August. Well, this is August, nearly September. So I want to see, for the first time in 15 months, I want to see the Intercontinental title actually be defended on a pay-per-view, because it's not happened since night one of WrestleMania last year, which is absolutely disgusting. And two, I want to see Ciampa versus Styles one-on-one. I don't want to see Ciampa versus Styles in a title match yet. I think that could be a good title match. I want to see Ciampa versus Styles in a very good pay-per-view quality match, because I think that would be great.
AJ win the US title on Monday.
I really would like that, because Bobby Lashley, I said it last week, Bobby Lashley does not need to be a mid-card title holder. He needs to be in the main event. He's one of the few guys. Like, the main event should be Karrion Kross. The main event should be Seth Rollins. The main event should be Cody Rhodes when he returns. It should be, even though
I just started thinking about Karrion Kross versus Bobby Lashley. That's a nice thought.
It'd be a wonderful title match.
Yeah, I like the thought of that match a lot. It's just so aggressive.
It's proper, like what's the best way to describe it? It's like proper man's man squaring off.
Those two could do a fight pit.
Proper alpha male, dominant. Who is the real alpha male of the division besides like McIntyre and Reigns? Because right now, even though I can't stand them, like, Reigns is like the main man. Pains me to say, but he is, like, approaching 1,000 days yet to be pinned, or he has passed it now. You've got Drew McIntyre, who is, unfortunately, he's not going to win at Clash, but he could be booked in a strong way where he gets a
convinced he doesn't win at Clash.
You think he might?
I'm not convinced that he doesn't. If you ask me now, is it more likely that he doesn't win? Yes, obviously. It's more likely that Roman retains. But this is Triple H. This is the first time they're in the UK in 30 years.
And only one title changed hands.
Yeah. And think, if that's the rule we're going to, if they really do want to keep UK shows that rare in terms of pay-per-views, so not house shows, if they want to do one UK pay-per-view every 30 years,
You have to have the British guy.
Best get that hometown hero over. You best
Yeah.
put that hometown hero over. Because the reaction it'll get on Twitter and all the social media and in the fan base and everything, you would have to be a very sour person to boo Drew McIntyre winning the world title, undisputed or not, at Cardiff.
Exactly. 100%.
Could they pull a Lex Luger? Maybe. I don't think they will. I really don't want them to. Like, he wins, but he doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite on the fence, but I wouldn't just automatically rule out Drew McIntyre
How about
world champion
as a random surprise booking? Because obviously it's 3 years at Clash. I'm pretty sure it's 3 years since the debut of The Fiend. I would not be surprised crazy if McIntyre was somehow to win the world title, but you have either Cross interfere, which we mentioned last week that Cross should be the WWE champion on Raw as a separate title, or The Fiend returns at Cardiff regardless of the result and attacks the champion. You either have him attack McIntyre as the heel, or he attacks Reigns as the face for a revenge arc for how he got brutalized at Payback and SummerSlam 3 years ago.
We can have Bray Wyatt.
Or you could just have Bray Wyatt, yes.
Because the Fiend storyline does not need to come back. It's finished. It's done. It didn't work. Fans hated it. Thought it was stupid. Experiment failed. Move on. Well, yeah, but at the start, it was still matches. And I understand that a pandemic's going to change certain ways that you do things.
Yeah.
But Fiend versus Balor was a match.
Yeah.
The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan was a match. I think I had a strap match stipulation.
He had a strap match at the Royal Rumble, yeah. He ripped his hair before it.
Yeah. So it got slowly more supernatural, surreal, creepy, and we don't want to see that. We want to see still wrestling. So if it was The Fiend, but he had wrestling matches, that would be okay. At the same time, just have Bray Wyatt back. You know, I think fans are ready to see Bray Wyatt come back.
I'd love to see him return. I really would. I'd love to see Johnny Gargano.
He can't have his tag partners. You know, one of them is sadly departed, and the other just isn't signed. So he can't have that. But he's a creative guy. You know, if Triple H said, "I'm not going to have you as a horror movie villain, but what is it you want to do?" You know, Triple H will have a closer. He won't just go, "Oh yes, Bray, we will do that for you," but he will go, "Okay, we can work with that."
There'd be a strong level of compromise, and you know it'd be great. You know it would be great, and that's something that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, that has been the main body of the show. We've got 11 minutes and 18 seconds left, so I'm going to do the little switcheroo. I'm going to throw it to my co-host, who is the honourable quizmaster. We're going to have a fantastic quiz. I am in full screen, as I always am. And it is over to you, quizmaster. But also, before we do the quiz, I just want to say to everyone that's watching, obviously Gerard as well, we had a brilliant Lex Luger account in here as well. For anyone that is watching, please hit that like, share and subscribe button to the Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. Follow us on Twitter as well, at Sports Armchair. Obviously, it's right here as well, like Sports Armchair _. Subscribe to us. Like my Twitter at is Devils_Rising1. I'll bring it back up shortly if you want to follow me as well. But all in all, like, we really do appreciate it. We do other content. We did do our Brentford match preview this morning because obviously Manchester United are due to play Brentford this afternoon. I think, obviously, Eilidh being an Arsenal fan, she'll be happy. I think Arsenal beat Leicester 4-2.
I had no idea. So that is music to my ears.
I'm pretty sure it was a big score.
I'll look up the highlights or watch match of the day tonight with a smile and a nice
little spoiler. Gabriel
cream and just
little wee spoiler. Gabriel Jesus did score a double. and Saliba did score an own goal. So there's something for it. But all in all, I heard you were pretty dominant, so I thought I'd give you that. I'm just double checking.
Like
yep, just double checking. There are no further comments, but if you do want to do, Eilidh will be monitoring the live chat. I won't be. I'll be
join in the quiz. You know, if you're feeling like it, we've got some questions. There will be points where I just sort of click out the browser. That's because we're back on the phone. I found that the connection, the audio, and everything else works better on the phone. Funnily enough, it does mean that the notes for the quiz are also in my phone. So I just need to back out, make sure I read the right question, make sure I'm not misleading you.
Yeah.
Now, there is a slight twist to this week's one, Reece.
Oh, okay.
And that for time purposes, we don't have a multi-answer question.
Fair enough. I'm okay with that. How many questions?
I believe I've got 5.
I like that. And that's the phrase to indicate that she is monitoring her questions. Our little quizmaster. Our quizmaster
I have 5 questions for you.
5, wonderful. Maybe next week going forward, if you are doing quiz from the phone, maybe do because I know you've got like your laptop, like
yeah. The thing is, I would have had a laptop set up for that, but it's decided it's configuring settings and whatever.
Because it's a nugget. But anyway,
it needs replaced badly.
8 minutes, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. It's over to you.
Question number 1, Reece. I would like to know in which year and at which event did Hulk Hogan make his in-ring debut for WCW?
WCW. I'm going to say, I think I actually do know this. I'm pretty sure it was a title versus retirement match versus then world champion Ric Flair. Ric Flair, I think, was at the time 10-time world champion, 10 or 11. I'm going to say Bash of the Beach 1990. Oh, I make sure I get my years right because he held the world title for a full year. I'm going to say Bash of the Beach 1994 because he was the fun. The stupid thing as well is Hulk Hogan held the WCW world title for the longest reign, and he should never have bloody held it. But yeah, I'm going to go Bash of the Beach 1994.
Okay.
With Jimmy Hart as his manager.
Bash at the Beach 94. Just checking the comments for anything come through before I reveal how wrong you were. And there's nothing. So I can reveal now that you are not wrong at all. It's Bash at the Beach 1994.
I knew it. Well, you know why? Because I've watched that match 20 times. I actually do like it. It was actually the best match they actually did together, besides the steel cage when he was in NWO 98, 99 era. It was probably the best matches they actually did together because obviously they sucked in WWE 3 years before.
Very true. So, question number 2. You're 1 for 1. Obviously, just 5 questions in this one. So, question number 2 is this. Obviously, on AEW this week, we saw Chris Jericho have his match at Quake by the Lake against Jon Moxley for the interim AEW World Championship. That was not a first-time meeting, of course. Jon Moxley, then Dean Ambrose, has had a match previously with Chris Jericho.
Yep, they did.
And in 2016, what was the unique match type that Dean Ambrose fought Chris Jericho in? Famous unique match type in 2016.
I'm not sure. I can't remember. I've not watched that in a long time. I can't remember. I'll just go so it's unique wise. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm just going to say... I'll just say a Chicago street fight, because I can't remember. I generally can't remember.
Okay. Right, that's fair enough.
I know it's wrong anyway, so it's okay.
Well, at least you know you're wrong, so there's no disappointment to be had. That is incorrect. Yeah. So there's a meme-worthy wrestling moment in the match where, of course, we meet Mitch the houseplant, and he's used as a weapon. Yeah. Of course, Dean Ambrose's gimmick was that he is a lunatic. Lunatics belong in an asylum. They had an asylum match.
Couldn't remember it.
Didn't take place in an asylum, but it was basically a steel cage lined with everything. A bit like that Ultimate Cage of Doom match they had on NXT as the third fall between Gargano and Adam Cole.
Or that really...
like a cage with weapons sort of taped and sort of hung and stuck in the cage wall.
Yeah.
Right, so you're 1 for 2 at the moment. My next question for you is this. Damian Priest was formerly known as what?
Can't remember.
No? So this was a Ring of Honor name, if you need to.
I never watched them in Ring of Honor, to be honest.
Not even like basically the dying days of Ring of Honor, as far as things were concerned, before all their talent was being scooped up by the dub.
Matt, I honestly haven't got a clue. There's no point in me guessing. I really haven't got a clue.
Fair enough. That's 2 not got clues in a row. You need to go back to the year 2016 and the surrounding areas. The man's name was Punishment Martinez. And the thing that made me think of this question was that when Damian Priest came out this week, Corey Graves, I think, said, "Here's the punishment of the Judgment Day." So it was a nice little, we're all just marks.
Nice little throwback.
Yeah, we're all just marks at the end of the day. Right.
So hopefully the next 2 are more gettable.
Question number 4. Tommaso Ciampa used to be in a tag team with Johnny Gargano. I want to know the tag team's name.
DIY.
DIY. Yeah?
Yeah, it was my favorite. One of my favorite NXT tag teams. One of them.
That's correct. I won't make you put the hashtag in because sometimes it was, and sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah,
DIY.
I never liked the hashtag part, to be honest.
Yeah, that was another question inspired by Raw this week because, of course, Tommaso Ciampa locked in the Gargano escape on Lashley, and Corey Graves again, because he's brilliant, said sometimes when you want a submission victory, you've got to do it yourself. So I think Johnny Gargano will be coming back soon. Right, we're coming up to the end of the quiz. Question number 5. You're currently 2 out of 4. This one, I'm going to give you a threshold of 5. So you can be within 5. My question, unfortunately, does also concern Ring of Honor. But you can have a guess at it.
Fuck. Okay.
Jay Lethal holds the record for the most defenses of the Ring of Honor World Championship. How many has he had?
You said I get 5 guesses on this.
No, you have a threshold of 5. So you give me one guess, but you're within 5 either side.
I'm just trying to think, because I know for a fact, like, title-wise, CM Punk, Joe, and CM Punk, Samoa Joe, and obviously Bryan Danielson had very lengthy world title reigns in Ring of Honor, so that's where I'm basing my run on it. I'm going to say 21.
21.
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, Reece, you're only just halfway there. Jay Lethal has defended the Ring of Honor World Championship a staggering 41 times in his
How
career.
the fuck has he managed 41 title reigns?
Well, when you think
defenses?
about it, remember, Ring of Honor's thing was that everything's on TV. So all the house shows are on TV and all the live events are on TV, as well as they have weekly television and their pay-per-views. So I'm guessing that has something to do with how Jay Lethal can defend it. Can have defended it 41 times in his career. And if you've got an issue with that fact, it was either Wikipedia or the wrestling Wikipedia. So,
how long was that title reign? How long was that title reign?
Well, it's over multiple reigns.
Oh, it's multiple reigns.
It's total defenses. Which
crazy,
I didn't clarify in the question, but I also didn't not clarify. So, so you're 2 out of 5 this week, Reece. That's the first time you failed one. But with the multi-marker, I think you would have been okay. We had to cut it for time, obviously, because I know that fans of your awful football club are about to tune in on, I believe it's Sky, if it's a late game, for Brentford against Manchester United in 36-degree heat, reportedly. So enjoy that.
Hopefully we win, but I've got my doubts as I can only openly admit, but we'll find out. But of course, it's been a great show for myself, a great show with my co-host Eilidh. We'll obviously be back next week, same slightly early. We'll be back at our usual time next Saturday at 3 o'clock for another edition of Shotgun Saturdays weekly Steelchair, and then after that it'll be one more, and then we'll have to figure out another day. I'll be off that week anyway, of leading up to Clash, but I will be in Bristol.
We'll work out a time to do a Clash preview. Obviously, it won't be done on the Saturday, as we'll be there. So we might end up doing it midweek. I've got no issue with that. It could be midweek stuff. Except the only day I can't do is the Friday, because I will be travelling down earlier than that, because I might try and go to the Undertaker event that's actually obviously at the theatre area. I might be trying to go. We'll see how much cost is, but it's been a great show. As we leave, obviously, I reiterate once again, thank you very much for watching, guys. Like, share, and subscribe to the Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. If you enjoyed the show, leave a comment. If there's anything else you'd like to see discussed on the show, feel free. Me and Eilidh love interacting on this. We do love these shows. It's honestly, besides football and other things, it's the highlight of my week. I know it'll be the highlight of Eilidh's. She is my co-host. She's literally the rock of my show. I really do appreciate it. But of course, now, I'll be tearing up. No, it is great. It's great to be doing this show. Obviously, weekly, as long as we can keep that going. But yeah, no, it's great fun. Always great chatting all of the graps.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next Saturday. And that's the bottom line, because the new haircut says so. See you later.